I hate to tell y'all, but Anthony Joshua versus Gerald Big Baby Miller is over. New York State Athletic Commission denies his license. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the Super Chat channel donations, the Venmo donations, and the Patreon family. We working. Make sure you guys, if you're new, consider subscribing to the channel. And, you know, this is one of the things I was right with, but I don't even want to be right because it sucks for boxing fans who are anticipating Joshua Miller. But I mentioned to you guys after the news broke that he had failed, Miller being he, failed a PED test, that I don't see this fight getting pushed through. You know, the cat's out the bag, that he had failed for really a substance, this GWS, George W. Bush, G14 classified, whatever it is. You guys can research it. And they call it endurable or something. And I told you guys, the components and the chemicals with the BOL at the end, LOL, OL, those are usually like actual, like anabolic, you know, definitely performance enhancing drugs. It's not like, you know, weed or something like you can get a slap on the wrist in general. The hardcore sounding endurable and turnable and stanozolol, like these different names, those are usually the hardcore ones. And I told you I didn't see this fight getting pushed through. Now, before I get started, ESPN Plus, subscribe to the channel. I am an affiliate. It helps the channel grow. But you can sign up through me. The 7-day free trial after that is $4.99. I'm on their website right now, and they have a new show with Andre Ward. It's called Ring Science, so make sure you guys check that out. He's basically breaking down Crawford Khan, kind of like they did with Sports Science, you know. And I made a video about that. Check that on the channel. You know, I'll show you the quick intro from it. You know, but original content like this.
When most people look at a fight, there's a reason they call it the sweet science. He's the betting favorite going into the fight, and
so he's breaking down what he sees from the fight game, you know, an undefeated Olympian Andre Ward. But shout out to ESPN Plus. I'm glad that they gave him his own show. And, you know, I'm using their website, link in the description. As you guys can see, as it relates to DAZN, bad look for DAZN. You guys see it. There's an article from Dan Raphael. It says, Gerald Miller denied a license by New York after a failed drug test. So, you know, basically what I told you. I'm not going to read through this whole thing, but heavyweight contender Gerald Big Baby Miller was denied a boxing license by the New York State Athletic Commission on Wednesday following his positive test for a banned substance. Miller was preparing to challenge unified world title holder Anthony Joshua June 1st at Madison Square Garden in New York. However, Miller, who had vociferously accused Joshua of using PEDs, performance-enhancing drugs, during their February media tour to promote the fight, he himself tested positive for the banned substance GW1516 in a random urine test conducted March 20th by VADA. The results came to light Tuesday night, and the New York Athletic Commission was notified along with both fighter camps. And here's a quote. You guys see the quote right here. The New York State Athletic Commission has denied Gerald Miller's professional boxing license application for violation relating to the use of a prohibited substance. We have no further comment at this time, the commission said in a statement on Wednesday. So they promptly reacted to the news and they said, yo, we not in it. We're not giving them a license. You know, VADA did their job and, you know, found this. I haven't heard anything from Miller. So, you know, it's just not a good look. It says, regardless, Matchroom's Eddie Hearn, Joshua's promoter, told ESPN on Wednesday after Miller's license was denied that the show will go on. So, you know, I want to give my thoughts. I'll read this quick quote from Eddie Hearn. Quote, I am on the search for a new opponent. Literally anyone can get it. There are some names that would appeal to our partners, DAZN, Sky Sports, and Madison Square Garden, more than others, and it's our job to get the ones that appeal the most. I've spoken to 16 heavyweights in the last 24 hours, yada, 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 10 of which are not suitable. I spoke to Luis Ortiz's manager and he felt it was too short notice for the fight, Hearn said. Whether that changes in the next couple of days, that's possible. There is still time. We will take anyone from the top 15. Listen, my thoughts, I want to just get into my thoughts. First of all, shame on Jarrell Miller. This is a nightmare. This is, lunacy right now. He was given the opportunity to challenge not only Joshua for clout, challenge for 4 belts that Joshua has, a chance at the titles that some people thought he hadn't really fought anyone to get. He stood to get north of $6 million, $7-8 million plus for this fight. All of that is out the window, squandered. There's damage control needed. It's just not a good situation. So we'll see what he has to say and if he has a difference of opinion, but it's not a good look. For DAZN, it's not a good look. They have, been very heavy on trying to get top names to the point where they're paying these wild purses. They owe Joshua X amount of dollars thinking he was going to fight Miller. Now it's all screwed, which this happens in boxing. People get injured, main events are compromised for one reason or another, injuries. There's another DAZN fight, David Lemieux, and he's injured. He was supposed to be on the Canelo Jacobs card versus John Ryder, a ranked guy, and he was moving up in weight, and his super middleweight debut is now taken off. Now Golden Boy has to scramble to find a new co-feature for Canelo Jacobs. So these are multiple hits for DAZN, a new company that just increased their prices, and everybody's scrambling. This is not a position from a business perspective that anybody would want to be in, and this happens, and this is what I told you. Me personally, a new company being out less than a year, not having a deep roster, not necessarily pushing through some of the bigger fights that I wanted to see or I think that are reasonable or feasible. I didn't feel comfortable paying a year in advance for fights that that aren't pay-per-view worthy. They keep saying pay-per-view is dead and selling it like that, but a lot of these fights weren't things you could even put on American US pay-per-view, and then now, David Lemieux's off for the Canelo Jacobs card. Canelo Jacobs is still a good main event. Jarrell Miller failed a drug test, so Joshua is going to fight somebody. And listen, there's a lot of people, old media, they're sweating bullets right now because a lot of what they said is going to come to pass. They said Joshua was a bigger star in America than Deontay Wilder. Now we're going to find out, because if they replace it with somebody lesser than the less anticipated, less desired than the Jarrell Miller fight, then we're going to see what his true star power is. They said people like Katie Taylor is, more popular and rated her higher than Clarissa Shields. So she's on this particular card. We'll see how big the card is. We'll see who the shoe-in is, the understudy. But for Jarrell Miller, it looks like he's off with this failed test. And, the only way to reverse it is to prove that VADA made an error, a clinical error, and open the B sample or prove that there was some kind of contamination and they tested wrong. But, that costs money from the fighter's pocket. So a lot of times you don't see the B sample even open. Plus you open the floodgates for public humiliation if you go through the motions and say, yeah, open up my B sample. And then they open up the B sample and it has this GWS 1516 in that too. So this is a precarious situation for DAZN, Eddie Hearns, and Anthony Joshua. Now they're scrambling. And a lot of this could have been avoided, had Joshua fought guys that the American public and American media, including myself, have been asking Joshua to fight. Wilder being the operative person, a fight with Luis King Kong Ortiz, not on short notice, which we're going to get to, or even Dillian White. I told you, Dillian White, that's not the best fight that I wanted to see for Joshua, but I think he had earned it more than Jarrell Miller. You know what I'm saying? In terms of, he had a good 2018 since he lost to Joshua earlier in his career. Before Joshua was a champion, they both have grown. Now they're stuck trying to scramble and find someone saying anybody can get it. And I know how old media works. I've seen how Eddie Hearn works, things like that. He's saying stuff. We reached out to Luis Ortiz. You can't expect Luis Ortiz to have 5.5, 6 weeks of a training camp, be doing whatever he's doing, and now come to save the day. You can't put that pressure on. Of course, Luis Ortiz wants to fight Anthony Joshua, but people want to fight on an even playing field, just like when Floyd was talking about fighting Pacquiao. He said, I don't have a problem fighting Pacquiao, but I want to do Olympic style blood and urine tests to make sure we're on an even playing field. Now, this isn't about the drug test per se, but with Luis Ortiz and Anthony Joshua, it's not, because Joshua has been training for a 317-pound man. Meanwhile, Luis Ortiz would be getting a second opportunity at the title, but he doesn't have the full camp to prepare. It's not fair, you know, and I don't blame PBC or his coach or anybody for not making the fight. People like the old media, they're going to try to make it look like Luis Ortiz is ducking, but you have to ask yourself this question. That makes no sense, because Luis Ortiz could have been the scheduled opponent before Jarrell Miller, and this would have, in my opinion, be a bigger fight. Luis Ortiz main evented with Wilder in front of 15,000 people at the Barclays Center, and they still chose Jarrell Miller, who had previously been fighting on co-features of like Danny Jacobs cards, and you know, he did have a main event, but it was in Kansas City, you know, and it wasn't like a huge card. He fought Bogdan Dinu. Eddie Hearns last week just said that he presented Luis Ortiz. He said he presented Luis Ortiz and Jarrell Miller to DAZN, and DAZN, he threw them under the bus and said DAZN said, we want Miller. He's a New Yorker. He's a better trash talker, etc. So now you got to live and die by those decisions. Now Miller didn't pan out for the fight. In that fight, he can't get licensed, so it's not pushing through. Now you can't expect Luis Ortiz. You already passed him up. Eddie Hearn is on record saying that. He's on record saying DAZN had the opportunity to fight Luis Ortiz and Jarrell Miller, and they said we wanted. So this is what happens when you talk a lot. Eddie Hearn just said this at the Anthony Corolla versus Lomachenko press conference. I can route you to the video if anybody needs that. Eddie Hearn said he presented Luis Ortiz as an opponent, and he presented Jarrell Miller, and DAZN picked Jarrell Miller. So live by the sword, die by the sword. You got to live and die by the decisions you make. We can't expect Luis Ortiz or fault him for not getting a full camp, even though that's a good pickup fight, a good consolation fight to Jarrell Miller not happening. We can't expect him to break his back, risk it all when he only has one loss, not get a full proper camp that Joshua had, to hurry up and save this DAZN card, especially when he doesn't work for DAZN. He's not affiliated with DAZN. And I told you this would be an issue. This would be an issue. Kubrat Pulev is with Top Rank, right? He's going through this suspension, I think, with Jin Sushi. Tyson Fury already has Tom Schwartz. Deontay Wilder's a PBC fighter, and they haven't been able to agree, with a Joshua Wilder fight. He's already fighting Dominic Breazeale anyway. He has his own business. People are saying Adam Kalinowski. People were blaming Luis Ortiz, accusing him of ducking. Adam Kalinowski's trainer just came out and said the same thing. He said that ain't enough time to prepare. It's not that people don't want to fight Joshua. It's just nobody's going to sell themselves short when they have a budding career and future, and they want, the same thing that Joshua has. Sometimes this happened, like Kubrat Pulev pulled out of the AJ fight, and then they replaced him last minute with Carlos Takam. But Eddie Hearn said he told Carlos Takam, if anything happens with this fight, you're up. So Carlos Takam had the knowledge to at least be training and stuff like this. We don't know what Adam Kalinowski is doing. We don't know what Luis King Kong Ortiz is doing. They could be, in the Bermuda Triangle or some shit in Barbados with their family. You know what I'm saying? And they just got to hurry up. So I'm saying a 6 week because I'm just looking at the actual weeks. But what if you're on vacation with your family and you got to fly back somewhere? Now, that could, by the time you get settled, that could be a 5.5 week, 5 week camp. It just depends. So we can't lean on star boxers who have a successful career and great matches that they can make and expect them to save the day because something awful like a failed drug test happened to a competitor's card. That just doesn't make sense. So we're gonna see. I'm hearing Michael Johnson, he signed with DAZN. I mean, if you guys want to see that, I don't know, but I think that's gonna hurt the card. I don't know if they're doing refunds, but no offense to Michael Hunter, I believe he was an Olympian or whatever, but Usyk already beat him and it went the decision, but I think it could have got stopped in the 12th round. Go watch the 12th round of Usyk versus Michael Hunter. It should be on YouTube. I thought the ref was wilding by not stopping that fight. So who's going to want to see him? He moved up to heavyweight And I know he wants to fight because I seen on his Twitter, which is cool, but he hasn't really proven to be able to beat even like a Dillian White, Andy Ruiz, Joseph Parker, or anybody of note. So who really wants to see Michael Hunter, you know, through like this commotion and cataclysmic events, just jump up and be rushed and fight Anthony Joshua? You know, it's just a bad situation for Eddie Hearns and AJ and DAZN, really is, and Jarrell Miller, you know, all of them, the whole situation. Now, again, nobody's blaming AJ and Hearns and DAZN for failing a drug test or causing Jarrell Miller to fail. However, this all could have been avoided had they listened to the public, you know, the American public. We told you that the Jarrell Miller fight, you know, should be, you know, the last course of business after Luis Ortiz, you know, Wilder, Luis Ortiz, even a Dillian White. Those guys should have been, but they tried to do it their way, and this is unfortunately the result. They tried to, I know what happened. They had that little DAZN press conference. Miller got in Joshua's face, which, you know, they could have told him to do that. Who knows? Got in his face, and then now they try to build up on that. You know, they had Miller accusing Joshua of being on peds and pushing him, and they try to build off of that type of drama and momentum, like, oh, we got a big show. But, you know, unfortunately, Miller, he didn't complete a drug test, so now you have no show, and now this is the consequence that, and the reality that everyone's faced with. So a lot of things could have been done differently. Like I said, Eddie Hearn specifically said, we presented Luis King Kong Ortiz versus AJ or Jarrell Miller, and DAZN picked Miller. So you can't expect your competitors to, they could be laughing at you. You know, PBC, Al Heyman, Bob Arum, Top Rank. Top Rank got their own card this week, Crawford versus Cant. So I don't see anybody being in a rush to help DAZN, you know, fix this. Whether you think that's right or not in boxing, that's the reality of it. And it doesn't hurt or help, when Eddie Hearns has come to America showboating and playing this cat and mouse game with American media, American fans, and also American promoters, saying, oh, these American promoters, you know, they're going out of business. Showtime will be out of business by October of this year. He said that October last year. He said, I give them 1 year. They're going to be out of business the same way HBO Boxing, you know, brought the reins in and got out of business. You know, now you need Al Heyman. You need him to free up Luis Ortiz and advise him to fight your guy. You know, you played around with Wilder and Joshua, and then the Wilder fight didn't happen. Now you need him. You know, you didn't take $50 million. The fans told Joshua, hey, please just come to America. At least watch Wilder versus Fury, which is a good heavyweight fight. You know, bring your energy, bring your marketability to that event, you know, and build for the winner, since you say you want to fight both. Joshua said he's going to bed. Now these decisions are coming back to bite them, you know. And it's just, people told him not to pick Jarrell Miller over Dillian White, over Luis Ortiz, over Wilder. These are the decisions that DAZN, Eddie Hearns, and AJ picked. And then, you know, unfortunately, they picked a person that couldn't see the fight through because he failed a drug test. It's just the reality of what they're up against. But, you know, Eddie Hearn constantly taking jabs at Arum and PBC, talking about PBC lost money and their shows are this, and not talking about Luis Ortiz, saying I feel bad for Luis Ortiz. His last fight with Christian Hammer was a stinker and it was a dud. He just said that last week. Now you want Luis Ortiz to come save the day? It doesn't work like that. And I don't know what world you guys live in, but in the real world that I live in, things don't work like that. Somebody was just talking about me at Lomachenko Anthony Corolla fight, saying I'm boring. My fight with Christian Hammer was dreadful and terrible to watch and this, that, and the third. And then a week later, karma comes, you know, in this series of misfortunate events. Now DAZN is probably pissed. You know, they got a lot of money tied up, or a lot of money that they owe to Joshua, for thinking it's going to be a Miller fight that will sell. They sold all these tickets, allegedly. They set pre-sale tickets. Now they're scrambling to get it done. And you think your competitors that you haven't even chose to be somewhat allies, like you look at the movie Black Panther. They had M'Baku. You remember M'Baku and the people in the mountains? they weren't really the same clique, but they had a cool relationship, like cool enough. Like it could go all the way left, but they were respectful of each other. You know, the Wakandan people and the people in the mountains, they were respectful enough of each other to kind of work together in certain situations, you know, if need be. Eddie Hearns hasn't created that. He hasn't rolled out that red carpet. He's taking shots at Arum. He's taking shots at Top Rank. He said, oh, Crawford Khan, I don't think it's going to do these numbers and these numbers. They're losing money. Oh, PBC, Spence and Garcia, they're losing money. You know, playing around with Wilder, stalling him out. Saying Luis Ortiz with Christian Hammer, his last fight was abysmal. Now you need these people to try to save your event, and they're probably not going to be available. Just my 2 cents. Let me know what you guys think. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. What we do know for sure is Miller was denied a license in New York. They need a new opponent. If you're new, consider subscribing. Make sure you smash the like button. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.